When you believe that good partners are rare, you cling to the wrong ones, overanalyzing texts and tolerating behavior that doesn't align with your values, all because you're afraid that there's no one better out there. But when you shift into a mindset of abundance, everything changes. You realize the world is full of amazing and kind, emotionally mature people. And your job isn't to convince someone to choose you, it's to find the right match. And this perspective keeps you from investing in situations that drain you because you know there's always someone else who will meet your standards. Hey there, this is Women on the Brink. I'm your host, Chris Jeffrey, a registered acupuncturist and wellness advisor with a passion for helping women live happier and more balanced lives. When I'm away from work, I'm usually outside in nature, either walking the seawall or I'm hiking in the mountains. And like many of you, my life has been filled with moments of hardship, some that I thought I couldn't overcome and really left me questioning my own strength. But through these challenges, I discovered resilience, courage, and a renewed sense of purpose. So I'm here to share not just my journey, but the lessons I've learned, and to remind you that no matter what obstacles come your way, there's always a path forward. And just to let you know, this podcast is not prescriptive. It's an offering. So please take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Women on the Brink. Thanks for joining us as we dive into the stresses of modern day dating. So today we'll be talking about why dating can feel like an emotional gymnastics routine because there's just, so much expectation to be able to perform and to decipher mixed signals and manage all the invisible mental stuff, all the while trying to find a genuine connection. Sounds like a lot of work to me. So we'll get into some tips on how to make dating less stressful and more fun in the second half of the show. So let's look at a typical dating scenario. So picture this, you match with someone on a dating app and he or she seems normal, which is a rare find. They have a cute dog in their photos, bonus points, and they're able to use full sentences. After a few solid back and forth messages, they ask you out for coffee, and you're cautiously optimistic. Now, this is where the emotional gymnastics routine begins, starting with the overthinking warm up. What do I wear? Casual, but cute. Effortless, but not like I just rolled out of bed. Should I Google cute but nonchalant coffee date outfits? Oh my God, why is it appearing now? And then we move into the text timing balance beam. How long do I wait to respond to their text? I don't want to seem desperate, but I also don't want to play games. Why is this so complicated? Then to spice things up, you go into social media vault flip. You casually check their Instagram. Okay, fine, you're full on stalking now. Only to find a suspiciously recent photo with a woman tagged as my person. Who is she? Then you follow that with the date anxiety sprint. So you show up at the coffee shop scanning the room like a CIA profiler, trying to figure out if he's actually that cute in person or if his online photos were taken somewhere around 2015. And then begins the Olympic level small talk. You find yourself nodding and smiling at his shocking revelation that they don't really read books, but love movies. Meanwhile, your brain is doing mental cartwheels trying to decipher if this is a deal breaker. And then lastly, the post-date mental gymnastics championship. You leave the date thinking, did I laugh too much? Maybe not enough. Was the joke about my obscure tattoo too much? And then the waiting game begins. Do you text first? Do they text first? Oh God, what if they just vanish into the abyss like the last one? And then 2 days later, you finally get a text. Hey, I had a great time. Let's do it again sometime. And just like that, you nail the gymnastics landing and gold medal in dating gymnastics achieved. Until the next round, of course. And that's a pretty decent scenario, I'd say. So let's just break this down a bit. What is the mental load that we women carry in the dating world? I mean, there's the overanalyzing texts, navigating ghosting, and the pressure to just be chill while secretly wondering if we're actually wasting our time. And I mean, for a lot of women, let's face it, dating kind of feels like an unpaid internship because much like trying to prove our worth in an entry level job, we women often find ourselves putting in a lot of emotional labor, time, and effort with no guarantee of a return on our investment. And women are expected to do a lot of the emotional heavy lifting, like initiating those deep conversations, like checking in on feelings and maintaining the vibe of a relationship. So we juggle the pressure to be desirable, but not too available, confident, but not too intimidating, independent, but still soft and feminine. And then we often go into the over-analyzing spiral. Should my text have been funnier and not so serious? Why did he like my Instagram story but didn't reply? So let's get into mixed messages and societal expectations. Because there's an enormous amount of pressure on women in dating, there's this constant balancing act that fuels stress and self-doubt. Where's the balance in being desirable but not desperate, or independent or not intimidating, or emotional available but not too needy? We're told, let love find us, while also being criticized for being single too long. And especially when we're young, I think there's this unspoken deadline, as if finding a partner by a certain age determines our worth. And sometimes even a stigma around being too picky or settling too soon. And don't you think that modern dating culture has actually encouraged more casual connections? So, if there are women who want more commitment, they might be labeled as clingy. But then if you don't want anything committal, you risk being seen as too easy. And in the pressure to look effortlessly beautiful and respond to text with just the right amount of enthusiasm and navigate the emotional labor of dating, we've had 3 dates. What are we now? It's no wonder so many women feel exhausted. And the result? A dating landscape where women feel like they have to constantly perform, second guess their worth, and carry the mental load of relationships, all the while being told to just have fun with it and relax. So then there's ghosting, breadcrumbing, and the mind games. And the dating world is full of people who disappear and then reappear or give just enough attention to keep someone hanging on. And the uncertainty creates emotional exhaustion, really. Like, did I misread the signals? Should I have played harder to get? Maybe they're just not that into me. It actually feels like a bit of a mind fuck, and there's so much pressure to stay cool and act unfazed, even when it might feel quite hurtful. And then there's the biological and social clock pressure. There does exist that unspoken timeline we often feel pressured to follow when it comes to relationships, marriage, and kids. Society subtly, or maybe not so subtly, imposes these expectations on us. And this creates a sense of urgency that can lead to stress about, whether we're wasting our time. It feels like there's always a clock ticking in the background telling you that you're supposed to have it all figured out by a certain age, or that you're somehow behind if you're not checking off those relationship milestones. And then with dating apps in the mix, the landscape becomes even more complicated. I mean, the sheer number of options creates a paradox of choice where it can feel like no one is ever fully committed because there's always someone better just to swipe away. And this constant scrolling and comparing often leaves people questioning their own desires and standards. So many women find themselves asking, am I being too picky? When all they're really asking for is respect and communication and really basic decency in a partner. So there can be this pressure to settle or to feel like they're too much for wanting a genuine connection. And it becomes overwhelming, leaving us to navigate the delicate balance between holding on to our standards and not feeling like we're running out of time. It's exhausting, but it also highlights, that deeper issue. We're not just searching for love, we're searching for authenticity and the space to be ourselves without compromise. And then for women, I would say this is a big one, that safety and emotional vulnerability issue. So unlike men, women often have to navigate the additional layer of safety concerns when dating, especially in the world of online apps, because meeting a stranger from an app can carry some real risks, physical, emotional, and mental. So let's be real. We're hoping for a good connection, but then we often find ourselves evaluating the safety of the situation, maybe second guessing the intentions of someone we've never met in person. And this added stress can weigh heavily because it's not just about chemistry or compatibility, but about assessing whether someone is trustworthy and respectful. And then on top of that, the emotional toll of opening up to someone only to be met with ghosting or flakiness or a complete lack of emotional maturity can feel like a relentless cycle of disappointment. And this really starts to erode our confidence and make it harder to trust that real, meaningful connections are possible. So the process of putting ourselves out there only to feel rejected or misunderstood, it does take its toll over time. And it's really left me questioning if it's worth the emotional energy. And then there's the exhaustion of filtering through all the bad matches, the red flags, and those energy vampires. Those people who drain you without offering anything in return, whether it's constant texting without following through, vague plans that never materialize, or people who seem emotionally unavailable or manipulative. It just becomes a constant balancing act, as we've said. So we have to be both emotionally and intuitively sharp, keeping our guard up while still trying to remain open to new possibilities. And this emotional labor isn't just about finding a match, it's about navigating a complex, sometimes overwhelming landscape of interactions while holding on to the hope that there is somebody out there who truly sees and values who you are. So, how do we make dating less of an emotional gymnastics competition? Stay with us after the break for some tips on letting curiosity and not outcome be one of the factors that keeps us moving forward.
Join us on our website for articles from our podcasts at www.womenonthebrink.net. There you'll find extra tools that can be used to raise self-awareness and build resilience. We want to make this experience as interactive as possible for you Brinkers. So join the forums, introduce yourself, and share your stories.
So I have a little story to share with you. When I became single at 49 after my husband and I separated, I decided to just look at what was out there on a dating site, just out of curiosity. I wasn't ready to get out there into the dating world quite yet. So I filled out the intake form on a popular dating platform and I just waited to see, what would happen. And I think I had 3 or 4 matches that came back. But get this, one of them was a man about my age who lived in my neighborhood, who also had 3 daughters and had the same name as my ex-husband. Was I matched up with my ex-husband? He claims to this day that it wasn't him, but it really freaked me out. And so I immediately took down my profile and I never went back to online dating again. And that's my story with online dating apps. So how do we make dating less stressful? So I think we gals need to shift from how do I make him like me to do I even like him? Lots of us are conditioned to seek that external validation. So we'll prioritize whether we're liked over whether we actually like the person in return. So the shift from asking, how do I make him like me, to do I even like him, is a really powerful reframe that puts the focus back on personal agency and self-worth and preference. So instead of molding ourselves to be desirable, this perspective really encourages more self-reflection and more discernment and an honest evaluation of whether we're even compatible. And it really acknowledges that attraction and connection should be mutual instead of a one-sided pursuit. And this shift comes from a place of confidence. So we approach relationships from a place of choice rather than seeking approval. And ultimately, it transforms dating from a game of seeking validation into an empowering process of discovering what and who really truly aligns with our values and our desires. And let's face it, for generations, women have been trained like Olympic level contortionists in the art of making themselves likable, laughing at bad jokes, pretending to love sports they don't understand, and suddenly developing a passion for whiskey despite the fact that it tastes like fire. So instead of stressing over how do I make him like me to do I even like him, is the upgrading from a discount store mirror to one with proper lighting where we see things clearly. So instead of bending over backward for someone who may not even, be that great, we get to decide if he actually meets our standards. And honestly, who wants to put in all that effort for a guy who still texts "sup" as an introduction, right? The other thing is, we need to stop internalizing rejection. It's not always about us. One thing I realize about romantic relationships is that rejection can feel personal, kind of like wearing a t-shirt that says, "not good enough" in bold letters. But the truth is, it's often not about you at all. People carry their own baggage and preferences and timing that have nothing to do with your worth. Maybe this person just got out of a relationship. Maybe he has commitment issues. Or maybe she's simply looking for someone who shares her oddly specific love for medieval battle reenactments. Whatever the case, internalizing rejection is like taking a stranger's grocery list and assuming it's a personal attack on your cooking skills. So instead of spiraling into "what's wrong with me," try reframing it as, "oh, well, not my person." The right connections won't require you to twist yourself into a pretzel to be enough. So let rejection be redirection and keep it moving forward. There are better things ahead than someone who doesn't see your worth. For the longest time, I have to admit, I took rejection as a personal failure, like a harsh review of my entire existence. If someone didn't choose me in the dating arena, I just assumed it meant I wasn't smart enough or pretty enough or interesting enough. But over time and after way too many unnecessary emotional spirals, I realized that rejection is often more about the other person's circumstances or their preferences or baggage than it is about me. And learning this, was like being handed a backstage pass to reality. I saw how many factors influence people's choices that has nothing to do with my worth. And once I stopped internalizing this rejection, I felt so much lighter and freer and honestly, way more confident. So instead of seeing it as proof of, my inadequacy, I started viewing it as a redirection toward the right people and opportunities. And let me tell you, that mindset shift has been a game changer. And here's another thing. Date from a place of abundance and not fear. There are great people out there. Dating from a place of fear leads to desperation, settling, and ignoring the red flags. Oh, he'll change. When you believe that good partners are rare, you cling to the wrong ones, overanalyzing texts and tolerating behavior that doesn't align with your values, all because you're afraid that there's no one better out there. But when you shift into a mindset of abundance, everything changes. You realize the world is full of amazing and kind, emotionally mature people. And your job isn't to convince someone to choose you, it's to find the right match. And this perspective keeps you from investing in situations that drain you because you know there's always someone else who will meet your standards. So instead of spiraling when someone ghosts or things don't work out, just remind yourself, next. There are billions of people on this planet. Odds are a few of them are exactly what you're looking for. It kind of reminds me of the song Better Man by Pearl Jam. That's a story of a woman stuck in a relationship where she's deeply unhappy, but keeps convincing herself that she can't do any better. So it's a song about settling, not because she wants to, but because she really believes she has no other choice. And I know of a woman who had been dating a guy for a few months, and she said at first he was really, really charming, but things kind of started to turn sour. He was often flaky and canceled plans at the last minute and wasn't very clear about his intentions. But instead of walking away, this woman found herself holding on, telling herself, maybe I'm just being too picky. Maybe I can't find someone better. So every time she felt frustrated or let down, she'd hear the echo of can't find a better man in her mind and convinced herself that this was the best she could do. And so she rationalized it. At least he's not a total jerk. And at least he says he likes me. But after another confusing conversation where the guy promised things would change, but really never did, she had a breakthrough and she realized that she deserved better. And it wasn't about finding someone better. It was about recognizing that she was enough and she didn't need to settle. So she walked away. And while it was tough at first, she did go on to meet someone who showed up for her and communicated openly and treated her with respect and the care she felt she deserved. And in the end, she found out that the real better man was the one who valued her enough to make her not doubt her worth. And the other thing is, we really need to set up those clear boundaries and walk away from uncertainty. Setting clear boundaries is a powerful act of self-respect. It's like drawing a line in the sand and saying, this is where I stand, and this is what I will and won't accept. And when you're clear about what you need and want and deserve, it's a lot easier to spot when someone or something crosses those lines. And walking away from uncertainty is just as vital. I mean, life is unpredictable, and relationships can sometimes leave us questioning where we stand, what's real, and if we're even being valued. But sticking around in uncertainty only keeps us in limbo, draining our energy and self-esteem, right? So when we set boundaries and we decide to walk away from situations that don't align with our standards, we're actually creating space for clarity and growth. It's not about being rigid. It's about being strong enough to walk away from the gray areas and to choose the peace that comes with knowing exactly where we stand. We don't need to tolerate the unknown or the unstable when there are so many things that are clear and fulfilling and aligned with your best self waiting for you. It's not about being rigid. It's about being strong enough to walk away from the gray areas and to choose the peace that comes with knowing exactly where we stand. We don't need to tolerate the unknown or the unstable when there are so many things that are clear and fulfilling and align with your best self waiting for you. And, really, at the end of the day, dating should be an adventure, not a job interview, where you're scrutinizing every answer and wondering if you're saying the right thing. When we approach dating with too much seriousness, it turns into a checklist of expectations and assessments and a performance review. I was at a music festival with my daughters last summer, and a man came up to me and said he wanted to take me out dancing sometime. And at the time, I just laughed it off and I declined the offer. But when I told a friend that I'd been asked out, she said, "You know what? You should look at this as an opportunity to meet someone new, explore a new experience, and learn more about yourself." And I thought, this is a really healthy way to look at dating. And I think it's really healthy to laugh at those awkward moments when we're dating, and enjoy the conversations with people and let the connection unfold naturally without putting too much weight on, any particular type of outcome. The right person will appreciate you and I for who we are, quirks and all, and will be more likely to enjoy the process when we approach it with an open mind and a light heart. Dating can be playful and full of surprises. So let go of the anxiety and just remember the goal is to have fun and see where the journey takes you rather than stressing over whether this one date will lead to the one. So that's a wrap for today's episode of Women on the Brink. We've unpacked why dating can feel like an emotional gymnastics routine, trying to juggle expectations and decipher mixed signals and navigate all the mental energy that comes with it. It can seem like a lot of work, but remember, dating should be an adventure. And I hope some of the tips on how to make dating more fun and less stressful and how to embrace the process without the pressure resonates with you. So take a deep breath and let go of the expectations. And remember that finding a genuine connection should feel exciting, not exhausting. Thanks for joining. And I want you to know that this isn't just a podcast. This is a movement. So share this information with your friends and let's go, ladies.